It's hard to imagine Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport without the tight-fisted monopoly locally based American Airlines has on the market. But if you go back in time, the Dallas of old was home to a lively competition between airline giants. Even though Americans spent decades pushing smaller carriers out, even while receiving threats from the Department of Justice, one competitor endured: Delta Airlines. Delta had at its peak a 35% market share of DFW traffic and commanded the entirety of Terminal E. DFW was a main element of Delta's strategy in the 80s and 90s and served as a crucial connector between East and West. It endured until 2005, after which American Airlines finally got their ultimate wish: complete control over Dallas-Fort Worth. But it wasn't an easy path. It cost millions, cost other carriers tens of millions, and was part of the reason for Atlanta's ultimate rise to fame. Hello and welcome to The Avid Aviator. My name is Cyrus, and today I'm excited to present the incredible story of DFW's rise to fame. In specific, I want to hone in on how Delta shaped the airport's prominence and why they eventually left, paving the way for Americans' absolute dominance. It's weird to think that just a few decades ago, DFW was in the same type of feud that exists at airports like Chicago, where American and United are in a full war. But frequent flyers in North Texas used to have an option: loyalty with Delta or loyalty with American. For a period, Dallas had the highest number of Delta medallion holders, except for Atlanta itself. The story of Delta at DFW doesn't really start with Delta at all. It begins with the story of how Dallas's airport landscape evolved decades ago. Delta's first ever passenger flight was from Dallas Love Field, and for decades they were a player in the Metroplex, even after they moved their headquarters to Atlanta in the 1940s. They had a short stint at Greater Southwest Airport and then were one of the opening tenants of the new Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport in 1974. But the move to DFW wasn't exactly Delta's idea. In fact, they had only recently finished renovations at their terminal in Love Field and were content to use it for their DC-8s and DC-9s. But then, Dallas and Fort Worth were forced to combine ships, Fort Worth abandoning GSW and Dallas, at least for the moment, planning to shift away from Love Field. DFW would be the new massive combined airport for all carriers in the region. When DFW opened, Braniff was the most sizable carrier, with a truly large operation. Delta's own paled in comparison, with most of the routes being transplants from Love Field. In fact, Delta's own operation was pretty modest, with just a few connections linking the East Coast and West. It wasn't until later that the airport would become a true hub for Delta. American Airlines was also far from being the largest carrier and still had their headquarters 1,000 miles away in New York City. For comparison, see how American, Delta, and Braniff's original DFW operation compares. There's a clear winner, and it isn't American or Delta. During the early days of DFW, Braniff was rapidly expanding, especially after deregulation in 1978. After deregulation, they doubled their capacity overnight, with DFW being a major beneficiary. But with the rapid expansion came a lot of uncertainty, including for DFW, which all came to a head when Braniff collapsed in the early 80s. This was the era in which both Delta and American made their moves in the Metroplex. In reality, Delta and American made these moves slightly before Braniff's collapse in 1981, with both carriers opening up hubs in the Metroplex while Braniff was bleeding cash from overexertion, while feeling the consequences of high oil prices and economic recession. Delta and American, who had grown more responsibly, were able to take advantage of Braniff's demise. However, it wasn't easy, and a famous phone call between Braniff's and American's CEO and president revealed that competition was still very painful. In this phone call, Robert Crandall, American's president at the time, suggested a mutual 20% price increase on tickets. Braniff's CEO refused and, of course, instead turned over a recording of the phone call to the DOJ to use as antitrust evidence. American later settled the case without admitting wrongdoing. As for Braniff, they crumbled only a few months after the infamous phone call, just weeks away from procuring the necessary summer ticket sales that might have let them live longer. It wasn't to be, and instead Braniff was shuttered, with their gates, aircraft, and equipment up for grabs from rival carriers. American and Delta immediately pounced, with Braniff's terminal at DFW not sitting empty for long. It's a bit surreal to think what might have happened if Braniff had taken up Crandall on his offer. Would the extra ticket revenue have been enough to fuel their continued existence? We'll never know, and instead live in the immediate after effects of Braniff's collapse. American would strike a deal with Fort Worth for a new headquarters and main campus, and Delta would expand, going toe for toe with American. But from the onset, American had a larger investment in the airport. Their own operation was now homegrown, and they had everything to lose if Delta were to beat them in their own new backyard. For Delta, the DFW expansion was necessary, especially given the strong competitor at Atlanta at the time, Eastern Airlines. Eastern maintained a strong presence at Atlanta, and in a way was a constraint into Delta's mission to take hold of the airport. DFW, on the other hand, while also boasting direct competition with American, had easier room for growth, with the design of the airport specifically created to eliminate even the thought of a restriction in capacity growth if requested by airlines. For example, when Delta wanted to grow in Terminal E, they helped fund construction of a new satellite terminal initially designed for their wide bodies, including the Lockheed TriStar. This satellite terminal was accessible with an underground walkway. In reality, it mainly served regional commuter jets but was capable of handling up to a Boeing 747. During the mid to late 80s, both American and Delta were growing in DFW, with all of Braniff's gates eventually assumed by either carrier. American was growing at a faster pace, though Delta was growing elsewhere. Their 1987 merger with Western gave them a new hub in Salt Lake City, which provided a new space for investment apart from DFW and Atlanta. At the same time, Eastern was beginning to struggle with frequent strikes, labor union conflicts, and plummeting cash reserves. Eastern was unable to keep up with all of their Atlanta gates, and of course, Delta was there to swoop up any open space. In 1991, Eastern officially ceased operations, paving the way for Delta to begin building the ultimate version of their Atlantis Fortress hub we now know today. At first, this didn't seem to have much of an effect on their DFW focus. In fact, in 1993, Delta's operation in DFW reached an all-time high with over 250 mainline departures, and eyes set on a 300 departure goal. Flights were offered to Asia, Europe, and most of the US, but there wouldn't be a better moment for Delta's DFW. It was the high point of a legendary operation. What happened next was a slow and tedious process that took over a decade. It was a process of unraveling, conflicting priorities, and the absolute ambition of a rival carrier. While we clearly need to address the next chapter of this video, there's still a lot to cover. But before we do so, I wanted to quickly ask you a question. Have you enjoyed this video thus far? If so, please consider subscribing with the notification bell and hitting the like button. You might have noticed the LED screen sitting behind me, showing flight details of aircraft thundering above. To cut to the chase, my wife found the device online, aptly named the flight wall, and it's now become a staple of my AvGeek setup. It comes with an app and a bunch of features, which you can learn more about in my detailed review of the product, linked in the pinned comment down below. Best of all, they now offer a 30% discount on purchases of two. Regardless if you take advantage of the discount or not, please use the link below with the code AVID at checkout. Well, I think it's about time to start the next chapter. The next chapter of Delta's hub is marked with very subtle changes in service. Delta still employed thousands of local employees and had a loyal following in the Metroplex, helped by the fact that they had routine service to Europe and used mostly mainline aircraft more popular with frequent and loyal travelers. This was crucial in maintaining a local following against American, as back then, as much as now, loyalty program revenue was essential. Just a few years later, Delta made some moves that began to compromise their loyalty foothold. It was the introduction of regional commuter flights. Don't get me wrong, these flights were essential and at first simply complemented the existing mainline services. But over the years, these flights began to replace their mainline cousins. The BAE 146-200 and later the CRJ 200 were crucial in this new approach and were served under Delta's subsidiary Delta Connection. By this time, Delta was more fully taking advantage of the room to grow in Atlanta, as well as using the new extensive international network they'd acquired from the smoldering Pan Am. The focus on DFW began to slip. American felt this immediately and understood they had an opportunity to, once and for all, have Dallas and Fort Worth for themselves. They already had the ever-annoying Southwest at nearby Love Field, which was enough competition, in their view. Throughout the late 1990s, Delta kept on bleeding their DFW capacity, though somewhat offset with smaller regional jets that replaced their mainline aircraft. Needless to say, this is not exactly a good approach for keeping loyal customers. Frequent flyers don't exactly want their home carrier to serve their most frequent of connections with a CRJ, and understandably so. American, on the other hand, had mainline alternatives, which was a tempting alternative to the average Dallas frequent flyer. In a sense, even before 9/11, the writing was on the wall for Delta's hub at DFW. By 2001, Delta's capacity was a shadow of what it once was, now only hovering at around 100 mainline departures compared to the 250 at its peak. A new issue then became front and center for Delta during this period: survival. 9/11 hurt the entire industry and Delta was no exception. They seemed close to bankruptcy at several points in the early 2000s. DFW saw another major reduction in capacity, reaching a new low of just 60 mainline departures a day in 2003. The regional operation was still fairly sizable, but nothing compared to Americans at the same facility. In 2004, the announcement was made: DFW would be a casualty of Delta's pre-bankruptcy restructuring. According to some insiders during the era, this move was also done in solidarity with pilots taking severe pay cuts to try and save the carrier from bankruptcy. The pilots would agree to pay cuts, but wanted to see radical cost-saving action from the carrier in other departments as well. According to some, the removal of DFW's hub status was this radical action. The move had a major effect on the airport, with thousands losing jobs and connectivity suffering. Of course, though American was facing similar difficulties, they were keen to pick up the empty room, which they did throughout the next 2 decades. DFW would become American's fortress hub, and now they command a presence unparalleled, except, ironically, to Delta's own fortress in Atlanta. Ultimately, the closure of their DFW hub didn't save them from bankruptcy, even though it may have cleaned up their balance sheet a bit. Delta never tried to relaunch their DFW hub, instead focusing on new acquisitions like Northwest Seattle operation and of course the ever-reliable Atlanta. Hence, the story of Delta's DFW hub is one of ambition, opportunity, and stubbornness. In the end, both carriers got what they wanted in homegrown fortresses: American and DFW once Delta left, and Delta with Atlanta after Eastern left. The story is full circle. There's no doubt about it. Well, here we are, at the end. Before you leave, consider sharing your thoughts in the comment section down below. For example, what do you remember of Delta's hub at DFW? Finally, I wanted to share some of the perks of channel membership. If you want to further support my work, you can do so by becoming a channel member, and in return, get some perks like earlier access to videos and much more. Anyways, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.